We're all work in progress. 5, 6, 7, 8. And welcome to Footnotes, a behind-the-scenes look at what we value and why it matters here at Foothill Church in Glendora, California. I'm your host, Ethan Bailey, joined today by Elder Ian Kelly. Ian, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ian is a long-time listener, first-time guest. And actually, we looked at the analytics, and you're the number one listener.
Really?
Actually,
wow.
No, we don't. It doesn't say that, but
Like
I feel it.
or...
Yeah, you do get a placard. Okay. It's in the mail. I'll send you the tracking number.
Thank you.
But no, Ian, I do feel like that's the case because you often are noting things in Footnotes. The whole time we've been doing Footnotes the last few years.
Good things.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
You're giving feedback, talking about it, asking, hey, what's next? That plaque originally belonged to Bryce, but now Bryce is helping edit and record. So technically he listens more because he's editing. He's maybe like 2-3 times each episode. You're probably hearing it. Yeah. But he doesn't count anymore because he's helping with production. So it's all you, man. Congrats.
Well, it's an honor.
Yeah. So yeah, this episode, you probably saw the title, Elder Spotlight with Ian Kelly. This isn't an episode to talk about, what are the qualifications of an elder that we see in Titus, but it's rather an opportunity for us to get to know Ian. We talk about it every episode, talking about what we value, why it matters. Well, we value you knowing who our elders are, and so that's why we like to do these episodes. We've done one with Bob Nyquist as well, and look forward to doing more with the elders in the future. So, yeah, congratulations. Welcome to, or not welcome, but you are now an elder. It's funny because I was thinking, I'm like, he has a good elder class. I was kind of equating it to like Hall of Fame class, not calling you guys Hall of Famers, but you have a good class with Ike Graham, Steve Dobransky. Good group of guys.
Yeah, certainly, men that I look up to and, have appreciated in my own faith walk.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah. I'm privileged to get to work with both those guys, and you are a lay elder, and so you're not on staff, but you are serving the church in this capacity as an elder pastor. So appreciate it, man. Well, hey, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit. Name, even though everyone knows your name, I've said it like 3 or 4 times already.
Sure,
but tell us about your family briefly.
Yeah. It's weird. To talk to you because you already know like all this stuff, so I'll probably like just
please.
Yeah.
Here, look at that camera right there.
Yes. No. I'll look.
You can just look at me still.
Yes. Yeah. So my name's Ian, obviously, and my wife's name is Christy. We are. We've been coming to Foothill for a long time. We have 2 children, Jordan, who we call JoJo, and Olivia. And JoJo is now 2.5 months. Olivia is 5 months today.
Oh,
actually,
wow.
Yeah. And yeah, we live here in Glendora, and we're just excited to be part of the church. We've been involved in multiple different ways, and just excited to take on this new role.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. Whenever you hear Jordan's name, I always forget. I'm like, it's JoJo. Like I hear JoJo, and it's great. Yeah. I remember one time. I think maybe when you guys were having Olivia, right? Dedicated. Chris said Jordan. I was like, is that, are you sure, Chris? Like, I thought it was JoJo. So, yeah, that's good. But then also, your mom also goes to Foothill Church, Bernadette. I feel like I catch people, like, they don't realize that connection.
Yeah.
She's someone who I've gotten to know a little bit more the last year. We went on the Ireland trip. Yeah. She was a part of that group. And so it's been cool getting to know you and your family more. I feel like, actually, just this last year, I feel like I've really gotten to know you all more.
Yeah. My mom, my sister, my brother-in-law, they all attend, and yeah, my mom actually speaks of the Ireland trip quite a bit. One of her favorite experiences.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's give us a little bit of background, a little bit more. You mentioned started attending Foothill Church, but let's go back a little bit more. Briefly, just explain like, hey, how did you come to know the Lord, and then fill in the gaps to what led you to Foothill Church.
Yeah. My testimony is not super exciting. Some people, they have like a definitive moment, and for me, my parents had me attending church when I was a little kid, going to like VBS, and going to Sunday school. I grew up Lutheran, and so my parents actually, they grew up Catholic, and they wanted something that was like similar, and some of the Lutheran practices are fairly similar.
Okay. Like what? What are a couple of those?
Well, just kind of the garb that some of the pastors would wear, is like similar to the priests, and then they had like acolytes. I don't know if you know.
I don't.
You know.
What is that?
So acolytes would just kind of like assist the pastor with some of the things that he was doing, with like communion.
Okay, so an acolyte is a person.
Yes, okay. Yes. An acolyte is like I don't know, typically they were younger that just like served up on stage. But yeah, no, so I was going to Lutheran church, and I really came to understand that I needed a savior, and that savior was Christ. Probably in elementary school, we had these things called confirmation classes, and they explained the gospel, and we went through like catechism and all that stuff, and which is another like similar thing. Yeah. But yeah, so I grew up Lutheran, and then just was raised in the church. And then I moved down here for school. Christy and I went to APU. Okay. I met her when I was in grad school, getting my degree in clinical psychology, and she was finishing up her degree in sociology. And then we started coming to Foothill actually when my roommates invited me.
Oh, cool.
And I kind of was growing tired of my not growing tired, but there are some issues with the other church that I was attending. So
I'd say I have a similar story of how I got to Foothill. Is I had kind of left my church, fully prepared to church shop, and my roommate was going to Foothill. Yeah. Nate Martinez. Did you know Nate Martinez?
Yes, I knew Nate. I think Christy and him were friends in college, and then Aaron. I played baseball with his brother at APU.
Yeah. It's fun. It's been fun, like unpacking a little bit. We have some crossover from APU, and so it's been fun to kind of play that game. Like, wait, did you know so and so?
Yeah. We found out.
I didn't know.
Did we served at like the grill, I think, or
we were both working in their hospitality services at the same time. I think, and we had a mutual friend.
We found out like last year, I think.
Yeah,
which was probably like I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that.
Coming up on more than 10 years, I think now. Sure. Yeah, because that's when we were like in the heart of being at APU.
Yeah, go Kings.
I heart APU. God first since 1899.
Yes. Yeah. Doesn't really get specific, but God first. Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's. I did some research and I was reading your elder bio, and you talked about how Christy is actually the one that pushed you and her. I mean, both of you to kind of like get more involved at Foothill. Yeah. Right. What was that like? Like early, kind of getting involved, getting plugged in.
I was. I've been kind of a lone wolf, like kind of in college and grad school. Like I loved being by myself.
Interesting.
I would love to go on hikes by myself. I found that I enjoyed movies when I went by myself to movies. I had friends that didn't know each other, and that like was nice to have that kind of anonymity. And then I went to church by myself, and I for me, like I just felt like I'm really I felt that I experienced things more when I was by myself. And then when I started dating Christy, we actually started going to two churches. We were alternating, and then we started coming to Foothill together. And I think one of the first weeks that we were here, she was just like, "Hey, she's like, why don't we just get involved? Like, why don't like let's make our way to the info tent and let's sign up for something." Mm-hmm. And for me, I was like, "Sure," And part of it was probably like, I don't know, I'm trying to accommodate my new girlfriend kind of thing. Like it was just kind of like. I want her to be impressed by me, or I want to just kind of like.
What a gesture by going to the info tent.
Yeah. So maybe not the best motive, but certainly got me involved. And to be honest, I mean, it's been honestly, I think it's been one of the best things for my spiritual life.
That's awesome.
To just be connected in different ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you first do to like start serving?
I believe I was an usher.
Okay.
Yeah. So responsible for seating people. I think Michael Hendrick was
Nice.
taken over
Oh,
as the lead.
Okay.
And I think back when Daniel Kaler and JD were taking charge of like the connections team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Michael Hendrick. It's funny. He'll kind of come back and visit every now and then.
Yeah.
And he still stands back there. Like
I know,
just,
right?
he doesn't sit. He'll just hang out with the ushers because he loved that role. He loved serving that way so much.
Yeah. No, he I think he kind of he was kind of the template for like how people were to fill that position. Just like I remember just it was uncomfortable sometimes for me, like because I would be like, "Can you scoot over?"
Yeah, please. Never mind.
Two people, I see 2 seats. There's only 2 seats in the row, and it's like Michael's like, "Can you fit them in there?" It's like, well, we have like 4 rows in the back that we could just open up. He's like,
two good seats. Yeah, awesome. Well, you mentioned getting involved. That was really a big moving point of your spiritual growth and just growth in general. Like why was that? Why do you think that was?
Well, it's community. I've come to understand like we just can't do this life alone. We're to run a race, and we need people when we're tired, when we're weak, to come alongside us, to bring us through particular times in our life. And to encourage us, people to approve us and all that. And so, when you're serving, you're rubbing shoulders with people that you see every day.
Yeah.
And at some point, it crosses just from like this familiar, acquaintance kind of thing to now like, okay, this is my friend, And so that was like for the, when working in the service team on Sunday, but also too, like, in growth groups and stuff like that. I mean, my closest friends today are from growth groups that I met, probably like, 8-9 years ago.
Wow. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's something I know we talk about a lot, with people that are newer to Foothill or even just feel like they're maybe even on the fringe. Like they're just kind of like fighting to really get plugged in and involved. We encourage them, join a surf team, join a growth group. And it's not so much that stuff is transactional of like, hey, do this and you get that. It's just, I think, fruits of, hey, we're called to serve. So by us serving, the Lord and the church and others, those are just the fruits of that. Those are the benefits. Those aren't necessarily our motives, but those are just results. Sure. And then, obviously get involved in growth group, you're around people, and so that's really cool to hear. I think that's a good reminder for people.
Yeah, I don't know, of too many people really who've like regretted that. I mean, the community's there. It's just if you're intentional about it, and you'll find. I believe you'll find a good community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. Where are you serving right now?
So I'm currently on the prayer team.
Okay.
At the front. The hard part right now is that we have a young daughter.
Yeah.
But no, before that I was teaching with kids.
Yeah, both you and Christy, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit more what you do for work. I know you do biblical counseling. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So I got my degree, like I said, in clinical psychology. I used to be a math major.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was just something I was good at.
Is there a line of math that you were pursuing? Is that how that works?
It was just something that I was like, I'm good at it, so I'll just pursue it. But then it was just like I had calculus 5 times a week, like early in the morning with a professor that I wasn't like. I mean, it was kind of boring to be honest, but also too more so because I didn't go to sleep early enough to be super awake for those classes. But then I switched to psychology after watching a play and got my degree in clinical psychology. Then I got my license in marriage and family therapy, which is just a regular psychotherapist that you would see for mental health services. And then at my new site, I got trained in biblical counseling. Okay. Actually similar to what I think some of the things that you guys do here in IBCD.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah. So got the, trained to level 3 on that, and then had other trainings too for
Yeah.
biblical counseling. But yeah,
That's super
so the primary thing I do is I see clients for mental health counseling.
Cool. Yeah, you mentioned it. We all the ministers on staff went through kind of a training. That way, we could even take on some just cases.
Yeah.
Just even here at Foothill Church, and
Sure.
I'm actually in the middle of my first one.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's super cool. It's
Yeah.
it's been really neat process, and one of those things like, what is this like to do? And
Yeah.
it's kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
To go into that. So I imagine it's even intimidating for someone to go in and go through biblical
Sure.
counseling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to be honest, I mean, like I had like a crisis of like my occupation a little bit.
What do you mean?
Well, the first 3 videos of that training, it's just, what's everything that's wrong with psychology?
Yeah.
And I couldn't disagree. I feel like, he makes some valid points. I think that there's some, they paint psychology with a wide brush. And so it's not all what he's saying, but for sure, some of the main arguments, I'm like, yeah, that's true, And so I think for me, like, I had to really think about, like, what am I doing? Am I just, because one of the approaches to therapy is just that you allow people to set their own goals, come to their own conclusions. And it's like, well, what if it's not biblical? What if people just kind of like put their emotional state above their holiness? Yeah. And so for me, I had to really like settle in my mind, okay, how am I going to approach my profession here? Given being confronted, with the issues of psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. So the place that you work at, it's a Christian based place, right? I mean,
Yeah. So my boss, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, she's a Reformed Calvinist.
Okay.
And her husband's a pastor at one of the Acts 29 churches in the area.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so we went to school together. One day she called me up, or I called her up because I needed a suitcase to bring home some notes, a HIPAA compliant suitcase. And she was like, by the way, are you looking for a job? She's like, I have this thing that I'm starting. And then I joined it, and like biblical counseling, it's encouraged. It's something that we believe that people truly need more than just relief from mental health symptoms.
Yeah. How would you encourage someone? Because I feel like stuff like that, seeking help, there is a stigma to it, but then there's also this newer, I think, openness to like, hey, go get mental health. That's accurate. Like, yeah, you should. Talk to, I think, biblical counseling more, and even maybe eliminating some of the stigma. It's like biblical counseling, it's not anything like taboo and like, oh, you're a failure, you have to go get this now, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely not. I mean, I think in some degree, I think we should all be counseled biblically, right? Whether that's like sitting with someone who's been trained in it or has a degree in it, or just like a friend, who knows their Bible really well, who's mature in their faith. So I would just want to erase that stigma for anybody who's like, I've been thinking about it, I don't want to go because of the stigma surrounding it. Go if you're needing it, which I think to some degree we all do. But yeah, with biblical counseling, essentially we just take our cue from 2 Timothy, where it just says that all Scripture is breathed out by God, profitable for teaching, reproof, for correction, and so if we truly believe that, then why not receive biblical counseling? And it's the most practical thing for depression, for anxiety, for marital conflict. I mean, even for like eating disorders and things like even dissociative identity disorders, some things that are have these labels in psychology.
That's super cool. What's been your kind of favorite part, or what's kind of brought you joy through this occupation?
I think for me, it's the at my current site. So I wouldn't say this for my occupation, like for all the sites that I've been at.
Sure.
But for my current site, I mean, it's encouraged to find opportunity to share the gospel. to bring it in if that's something that is ethically good and right according. We have to operate under the Board of Behavioral Sciences standards, but if the opportunity presents itself, there's joy when someone receives it. I don't know. Maybe you've had that experience where you've had a friend receive the gospel for the first time, and so to witness that and to help people be discipled and grow in that. I don't know if there's too many joys that top that.
That's been really cool. I look back even just the one case I'm in the middle of right now. It's really cool to kind of walk through and encourage, like, hey, here's what I think you should here's some homework for the week.
Sure.
Do it. And then to come back and like check in, like, hey, how was that this week? And like, it was good. Like this, I really, was able to apply scripture to the situation, and I was reminded of God's goodness. And it's been really neat to see that. And even just other things as we're just talking, for this person to kind of glean and latch onto things and report back. Like it's been super encouraging in that way too. So, but that's awesome. I think great reminder, like biblical counseling is for everyone. And super cool to hear kind of your heart a little bit more behind that as well. So, Elder Ian, I like calling you that.
Regular person Ethan, is it?
Sure. No. Can you just briefly remind us, what is the role of an elder? I know it's kind of maybe obscure for some people. We see, like I mentioned in Titus, kind of the qualifications of an elder. Here at Foothill Church, like what does that role look like?
Sure. Yeah. So qualifications, different than the role, although, only the person who meets the qualifications can take on that role. But essentially it's in the broad sense, it's governing the church, and shepherding the flock, and being responsible for spiritual growth, things like protecting against like false teaching and, but also too, some of the technical stuff, like, handling some of the behind the scenes that just kind of like allows people to, sit in church to receive the word and to grow, helping, certain ministries grow and then, just even meeting just some of the felt needs, of people, praying for them, working with them and discipling them. So just kind of growing, spiritually our flock and just walking alongside them till the end. I'm super grateful for you guys, and just the relationships that we as a staff even benefit from the elders. And I've had good conversations with Bob about like things. I'm currently in his Christian Doctrine class. Both he and CJ Cohick are teaching, and it's been cool to kind of glean more wisdom from him in that, and then just see him leading within there. The ability to teach is one of those qualifications, and so that's kind of the way he's practicing that. And even just hearing more like from him on like, hey, what does this mean? What is this saying? It's a benefit for the staff, benefit for the church to have a group of you guys leading us well like that. So what has that process been like for you entering this? So you're new. Yes.
February 2023.
Yeah.
You were inducted into. Now you're added to. What is the
installed?
Installed. Yeah. It's funny because I've like had to type out that word for like promotional.
stuff.
I just
you think of like I don't know, like installing like subwoofers in your car.
Sure. Yeah.
A little different, but
it's funny.
Mostly the same.
Yeah, it's funny because Steve was talking about what it was like for him, but from a little experience, he was like talking about how like, man, when we were there praying on our knees, it was so tiring. And he mentioned you said a comment too about that.
I honestly, my knees were hurting, so bad. Funny. I'm like, so I actually so for the first service, I T-bowed it, for those.
Okay, yeah.
You being a Bronco fan.
Yep.
So I was down on one knee, and then I was like, man, this hurts so bad. I can't do this for so I took my cue from Steve and I went down on both knees, but that was uncomfortable. So I kept like shifting, trying not to draw attention to myself.
That's funny. I remember like seeing you guys. I'm like, that's gonna be uncomfortable. This is a long prayer. I saw Chris's prayer ahead of time. I'm like, this is get ready, guys.
I was like, come on.
It's no it's obviously a rigorous process to become an elder, and that's That's the capstone.
Yeah. No, I mean,
kneeling for 3 minutes.
Yeah, the year of training and the books that you had to read and interview application, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably the kneeling was probably the most difficult out of all of it.
That's funny. Yeah, books. Do you know how many books you guys read? Ballpark.
Man, I think like I could be totally off here. I want to say like maybe 10.
Okay. And they're not light books either. Right? Or maybe some of them are?
No, I mean, some of them are easy reads. Okay. We read a couple books from Paul Tripp, and he tends to be kind of like I don't know, just regular speech.
Yeah, he's kind of a fun kind of author. Like he likes to have his personality and nature is fun and engaging, so that it kind of translates into his writing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In all honesty, I mean, like none of it was super elevated. A lot of it was pretty even when we read Holiness by J.C. Ryle that people talk about a lot. It almost seems like it was written like yesterday.
Yeah, I have that one. I need to read it. Chris mentioned the sermon, and I ordered it in that sermon.
Yeah.
I'm just now remembering.
Honestly, everybody should read that book.
Yeah, we'll link it in the show notes. Yeah. What was your favorite book from those? I'm just gonna say Holiness by J.C. Ryle for sure. I would say that was number one, and then I think the one that I learned the most from, apart from that book, was we had to read Systematic Theology by Grudem, and so I think that was packed with a lot of things. So probably those two. Yeah. But yeah, that's a really cool book. So I'm in Christian Doctrine 2 right now. I didn't take the first one yet, so I'll do that in the fall. But it's been super cool, and it's a really just useful book to use, like as you're trying to think, maybe ahead of time through conversations, or like if someone has questions. If you have questions, it's like a really good just tool to also go through. Like, hey, let me look up definitions. Okay, it's from this section. Let me read that. It's just so many layers of information about our doctrine as
100%.
Christians. So it's been super cool.
Yeah. If anyone ever wants to kind of be able to give a reason for the hope that they have within them, then that would be a book to read. That and obviously Scripture.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's obviously better paired with the Bible being the first read.
Yes.
So, which that's pointing to a lot of Scripture throughout it. So that's awesome, man. Well, hey, going back a little further, what was October 2002 like for you?
Okay, I see where this is going.
Because I remember, I have vivid memories of Troy Percival on the mounds, Game 7, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, Kenny Lofton on base, and I think 2 men maybe Kenny Lofton up at the plate, 2 men on base. He hits a ball out to I think center right field. Darren Erstad waves off his teammates and catches the final out, and Angels win in Game 7 of the World Series that year. What was your October 2002 like?
I really don't remember anything about that month. I think it's fragmented.
Quick context for those only listening. I just pulled out a hat, Angels hat, a rally monkey, which is really prominent in our World Series run that year, and a ring that's too small for my pinky, but it says World Champions. Conveniently, I loved when I saw you walking in with your Giants sweater on. I was like, this is perfect. So Angels defeated the Giants.
Yes, they did in 2002. I remember Game 6. The thing that stands out to me is Game 6. Dusty Baker gives Russ Ortiz finishes, and Giants had the lead, and it's just kind of like, okay, cool, they're gonna win, And so Russ Ortiz steps off the mound. Dusty Baker gives him the game ball, which is for anybody that plays baseball or that's familiar with baseball, it's there's quite a bit of like superstition in it. It's just like you don't do things like that. And so then Felix Rodriguez throws a slider down and into Scott Spezio, who hits a bomb. And I think that either tied the game or that gave them the lead. And then they went to Game 7, obviously, and they lost. And with such an amazing roster, But no, I tend to remember more 2010, 12, and 14.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Yeah. No. I always wore my Giants stuff, like even before those years. And then people were just like, Ian, are you this, you're a bandwagoner. I was like, man, I was there for the dark ages, man. Yeah. You don't know. You don't know. But I feel like this is a gimmick because I don't believe you're an Angels fan. Are you an Angels fan?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah, I had this rally monkey from the stadium.
Wow, I never would have agreed to this.
I watched. Yeah, I'm sure. I was watching that World Series. That was the year. I mean, I was fairly young still, and that was when I really felt ownership.
Okay.
We grew up going to Angels games, and they were kind of my favorite team, even though my dad is a Dodgers fan. My mom grew up in a Dodgers household. My brother was a Dodgers fan. Yeah. We just grew up going to more Angel games. And then Angels in the Outfield, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So I was set up to be an Angels fan. We grew up just up the 57.
Angels, Broncos, makes sense.
Yeah, it's perfect unison. I am thoroughly impressed, though, because I had to do the research and remember. Like I remember what happened. But I was like, okay, I know it was Percival to Erstad. But it was like, okay, 2 outs, so I did have to remember, like, hey, it was Kenny Lofton and everything. Yeah. So I did my research to make sure I didn't embarrass myself, but you had Game 6 down.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, you remember particular things like where you were when Princess Diana died, and then what happened in Game 6 of the Giants. Angels. But no, I mean, it was a good series, well fought. First series that I remember. I mean, in my lifetime that the Giants were a part of. I mean, they were part of the '89 World Series, the Battle of the Bay. But yeah, honestly, I mean, I could talk baseball and sports with you, and that would be like a whole separate podcast. If anyone ever comes to me for biblical counseling or therapy, and they want to distract from whatever we're talking about, they could probably bring up sports, and I'll go probably, I'll try to keep it to 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So you're from the Bay Area, I'm assuming, because you're also a Niners fan.
Yeah. So there's some. I'm from Northern California, and there's people will say it's not really the Bay, Tracy, because the San Joaquin County doesn't touch the Bay. Alameda County does, which is, one city is over is Livermore. But I was born in San Francisco. My mom tells me the story that we were actually living in Fremont at the time, and had my dad go to San Francisco. I think it was so that we could be born in San Francisco. I don't know. But sounds like something she would do. But
Broncos also beat the Niners in Week 3 this last season.
Yeah,
so 11-10.
I think that was Trey Lance was probably starting.
Yeah, was that the game he got injured? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, another thing.
It's a wash. We're both 0-0 right now.
Yeah,
Super Bowl's to show for it.
Yeah, so. No, I mean, we'll see how it goes next year.
Yeah. Last fun random question. I was talking to Alex Haston, and he told me ask Ian about Chat GPT and asking it theological questions.
Yeah. So
super cool. I don't know what he was meaning by that, but that sounds fun.
Yeah. So you can. So first off, I'm not like endorsing ChatGPT. I'm not saying like, hey, take it as gospel and run with it.
You're just having fun and researching.
Yeah, I'm just hey, what's this thing about? Should we, fear for our lives? No, God's in control. But no, with ChatGPT, sometimes you can ask crazy questions that, you could ask it to prepare a sermon for you. You could ask it particular questions about theological topics.
That's how we use it to determine what topics we're going to do on Footnotes. And it said Elder Spotlight, Ian Kelly.
Yeah.
We haven't done that, but I would be interested.
All the billion data points. It came to that conclusion. Yes. So I've asked it some questions. Like I've asked it like, what is the gospel? And it's very surprising. It even goes into like, that essentially that we were created for good works. Like that your faith doesn't stop at receiving the gospel. That you're also to love your neighbor. And that a genuine faith is verified by the works that you do. So like it talked about it. I'm like, wow, this is this is pretty good.
That's good. Well, I appreciate the warning too of, it's not the Bible. So
no.
It is pulling from other random, an array of sources. So let's pray that ChatGPT continues to have, biblical gospel centered information being fed into it.
No, for sure. And that people would take it as just like, hey, I should probably do my research.
Yeah, absolutely. That's neat. Well, cool, man. Hey, thanks for coming on. I'm honestly really glad to finally have you on as our number one listener. And so you think you're going to listen back to this episode?
Probably not. I honestly...
Can you just for our normal average of listening, can you just hit play, mute?
Yeah. I'll do that. Yeah.
Or when we see, look at numbers, I'll just know it's one less because Ian was on this one.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
There you go.
Well, appreciate your time, man. Hey, Foothill, we'll see you in a couple more weeks. But yeah, and then actually Erica will also be back on with us. We miss having her on. So thanks again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ethan.